Welcome in What's Right with Nick Wright. A quick emergency reaction show to Thunder 114, Timberwolves 88 in a game that sounds like a blowout because it was a blowout, but for the better part of three quarters, it certainly didn't feel like, and it wasn't a blowout as Minnesota went into halftime with a 4-point lead, had a 4-point lead around midway through the third quarter, and then the Thunder did what the Thunder do, which is go on these defense-generated runs. We talked about it last week, that they have the ability to go on these 15-2 runs without running any offense. That just force a steal, get a layup, force a steal, get a layup, force a bad shot, get out in transition. And that seemingly is what happened the entirety of the second half as they beat the Timberwolves 70-40 in the second half en route to a 26-point victory. And here is the problem with discussing that game. The Thunder deserve a ton of credit. I compared them glowingly to the 90s Bulls, the second version of those teams that had Pippen and Rodman and Jordan defensively, and that they could just swarm you as you had tried to just move the ball up the court and wreak so much havoc on defense that they could win games that way. I said on this show and on the TV show back in November, after seeing the Thunder in person for the first time this year when I was in LA and watched Lakers, pre-Luka Lakers against the Thunder, that I thought the Thunder were the best team in the league. What made me pick the Lakers to win the championship was seeing that the Lakers dealt with the Thunder so well in their two regular season matchups at the end of the year when they got Luka Doncic. Because I thought the Thunder were the team to beat, and I thought the Lakers could beat them. And last night, even if you remove garbage time, the Thunder played 10 guys and got solid contributions from 9 of the 10. Really, Aaron Wiggins is the only one who didn't do much, but Isaiah Joe gave him good minutes. Obviously, Cason Wallace gave him good minutes. They didn't even play the other Jalen Williams in that 10-man rotation they were running. So you would like to have this story be a team that has been intelligently built, that has a superstar scoring champ about to be league MVP, a kind of up-and-coming second and third options in J-Dub and Chet, and this team just absolutely annihilating Minnesota in the Thunder's first conference finals game since KD was there. You'd love for that to be the story, but it's not the story. The story is, and there's no way around it, and I think you guys know from, as I interrupt myself, my hesitation across sports to blame officials, and I'm not blaming the officials for this one. But the officiating is the story, because the dichotomy between how the Thunder guard, which is awesome playoff physical defense, and the way Shai is allowed to be guarded, and the way Shai courts contact or initiates contact and then reacts as if there were a sniper in the crowd and just flails to the ground, and time after time after time gets rewarded for it, is utterly maddening. And we have seen, listen, James Harden was different stylistically than Shai, but did a lot of this same stuff, obviously. Maybe this feels more jarring because Harden's teams were not the best defensive team we've seen in a quarter century, or at least 20 years, that was on the other end of the court roughing everyone up. But it is impossible to watch, and I like it, by the way Caruso and Dort and Wiggins and Wallace and J-Dub are allowed to guard, and then see on the other end of the court how Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is treated by the refs as if he's playing by a different set of rules. Miles Brown, who is someone I quote a lot on this show because I think he's a smart guy, and I also think he has a very funny Twitter. He's at m.brown. He tweeted, "The way OKC gets to play football on one end of the court and behind museum glass on the other is infuriating." And that is exactly how I feel. And I do think there is a knock-on effect from when Shai draws 4 fouls in the first 5 minutes of the game. Not only does Jaden McDaniels and Rudy Gobert and others get in foul trouble, and Gobert got 2 fouls early. One was offensive, so maybe he's the wrong example. He actually didn't foul again after that, but he was kind of seemingly knocked out of the game impact-wise after those opening 2 fouls. But the knock-on effect is this. When the refs make it clear immediately, we are going to reward Shai's flopping, because that's what it is. It is shameless flopping. Then later in the game, and you saw it in the second half, guys feel like, well, I have to give him space or else he's going to draw the foul, even if the foul didn't exist. And all of a sudden, Shai can totally comfortably step into that 17-footer that he's the best in the league at. And we have these NBA, the bad acting, dopey, agenda-laden folks who have been trying to tell you for the last 5 years the league is dying because the league had the audacity to try to have some type of social conscience. Those folks who've been in hiding this postseason because the ratings have been off the charts, because the games have been great. Those folks obviously have not acknowledged that the first 2 rounds of these playoffs, the ratings were some of the best we've seen in more than 10 years in this league through the first 2 rounds. Now, part of that is the games have just been awesome, but to have that type of rating when Steph really only played a round, when LeBron only played a round, when Durant didn't make the playoffs at all, when Giannis only played 1 round, is a testament to the fact that the audience has enjoyed the way these games have been played and officiated. That this postseason, we are allowing a level of physicality and a level of contact that is so unlike what is allowed in the regular season. The audience likes it, and the teams have adjusted. And it's not even accurate to say that that is applied to every team except the Thunder, because it absolutely has applied to the Thunder's defense. Alex Caruso's awesome, and I give him massive credit. Alex Caruso was basically allowed to take out a police baton on Nikola Jokic. The refs were like, whatever, man. You're 6 inches taller than him. Deal with it. Fine. I am not complaining about that. I thought that was great. But when you compare that to the way the refs are saying you have to guard Shai, and these are laughable plays. And credit to Doris and to Richard Jefferson for acknowledging it during the broadcast. But these are Shai. It's not even like the old Harden hook the guy's arm and then go up. It is just take a step and act like you got hit and collapse to the floor while tossing up a shot. Some of the most egregious ones yesterday, he actually made the shot while falling. There was one truly egregious one that the Timberwolves challenged and won, but you don't have endless challenges and you don't want to use them early. And it's just unbecoming. And one of the reasons I had a level, not huge, but a level of Thunder skepticism was I wondered, was Shai going to get the whistle in the playoffs that he got in the regular season? And up to this point, the answer is absolutely yes. If not a better one, because he's averaging this, well, probably about the same whistle. His free throws in each game of these playoffs, 7 in the first game of the playoffs. He only played 23 minutes because they won by 50. 4 in game 2 of the playoffs when they won by 20. 9 in game 3, 13 in the deciding game against Memphis. And then 9 in game 1 against Denver, 11 in game 2 against Denver, just 5 in the overtime loss to Denver, then 12, then 6, then 11, then 9, and last night 14. And this is going to sound unsportsman of me, but it is sports and this is part of it. If I am Minnesota and this is how they are going to, I'll give it game 2 and see what type of whistle he's getting. But if it's clear any type of contact, he is going, even if he generates it, even if it's borderline fraudulent, he's just going to get that whistle, then you guys need to decide as a team if we're going to get our money's worth on these fouls. Because right now, he is getting the best of all worlds. He's living at the free throw line, and he's leaving the game physically feeling better than he came into the game. Because there's no hard contact. Last night, there wasn't a single foul that was like, oh, that's a hard playoff foul. And I'm not talking about dirty plays. I'm not talking about undercutting him, anything like that. The audience knows what I'm talking about here. And I hate that that's the story, but that's the story of game 1. And it is why people got, sometimes I say things on the TV show or on here, and I say ahead of time that I know I'm going to get killed for this. Don't care. It's just how I feel. I owe the audience honesty, so I'm going to give them honesty. And when I said on the show yesterday, I think the Thunder are the best team. I think they're going to win. I hope the Timberwolves win. Part of it was because I do not like this style of play being rewarded. I just don't. The foul baiting, flopping nonsense. And I'm glad I got that take out prior to game 1, because I feel like a lot of America watching that game joined me. And here's the other part of it. He doesn't have to do this. So take later stage Jimmy Butler, who was not a volume or a good three-point shooter, who was not a crazy explosive athlete. And in order for him to be peak effective, he had to be drawing fouls. But he drew fouls kind of the old-fashioned way. He would pump fake, get you in the air, and go up. And that can be annoying, but that's not grifting. It's a frustrating guy to go against because you're like, just stay on the ground. He's not going up with his first shot. And guys would have a hard time with it. Shai is just kind of wildly throwing himself into the lane, falling sideways, looking for minimal contact, selling it like Daniel Day-Lewis, and being rewarded by it in a playoffs when for other guys it has been, if you're not bleeding from the nose, it probably wasn't a foul. And it's just wildly frustrating. Now, was that the reason the Thunder won by 26? They outscored them 70-40 in the second half. So that was the story of the game, but was that the reason the Thunder won? No. And we'll get into the reason the Thunder won right now, which is every single player on Minnesota, except for Julius Randle, played poorly. Every single one. If you just go down the box score, Jaden scored, I think, 5 immediate points, 2 the rest of the way, got in foul trouble, couldn't be as effective, fouled out. Rudy got 2 fouls in the first 100 seconds of the game, went to the bench, finished the game 20 minutes, 2 points, 3 rebounds, no impact. Conley hit the one big 3 in the third quarter to, I think, put him up 4. Other than that, nothing. Ant, man, I think Ant, I'm going to look real quick. I think Ant had 16 in the first half and then finished the game with 18. I should have had that in front of me, but I can get it right now. Series stats for that game. I want to see what Ant had in the second half of this game. Ant had 5 points in the second half, so he had 13 at halftime. In the third, he had 0 in the fourth. I mean, they were getting blown out. But, I mean, going into the fourth, no, they weren't getting blown out. That's wrong. They got blown out in the fourth. Going into the fourth, they were down 10. So Ant didn't attack enough. Ant took 5 2-point field goals and, wasn't getting teammates involved the way he had earlier in the postseason. So he wasn't great. Naz Reid has been on, I think it's too strong to say he's cost himself a ton of money. I think that's too early, but because he's a free agent this offseason. But Naz Reid has had 2 good playoff games this year. Game 1 against the Lakers and game 1 against the Warriors, which they lost. He was so big for them in last year's postseason. And in this year's postseason, he has just not delivered the way I expected him to. Now, maybe that bounces back, but last night was another game. I mean, he's 1 for 11, 0 for 7 from 3. Dante came in, hit 2 big threes at various times when the Thunder were running away to kind of keep the Timberwolves attached. But he's 3 for 14, 3 for 12 from 3. And Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Shai's cousin, they were just content leaving him wide open, and he couldn't make them pay. So Naz, Dante, and Nickeil Alexander-Walker combine to go, 5 for 26 from 3. The Thunder as a whole go 15 of 51 from 3. Julius, the only one. I mean, outside of Julius Randle, they're 10 of 45 from 3. So that's not going to be good enough, obviously. So none of their guys played well enough. But the story is how, honestly, unattractive of a game that was thanks to the way, in my opinion, the refs called it with Shai. And how that impacted how they were able to guard him the rest of the game, how they instantly rewarded it in the opening minutes of the game, and how they didn't then decide, all right, we're just going to call it super tight on both sides. That's not what happened. And this was a game, you can't call it a must-win for the Timberwolves, but when you're more rested, when Oklahoma City's coming off a 7-game war, when rust wasn't a factor like it was in game 1 against Golden State, you're up 4 at halftime. To just fold in the second half like that, it does not bode well for your chances. Because now if you're Minnesota, you either have to win 4 of the next 5 or 3 of the next 5 plus a game 7 in Oklahoma City, which is a hell of an ask. All right, the other thing I want to do quickly here is just talk for a moment about Pacers-Knicks, which is, I want to be very clear. I think the Pacers are really good. I think they are, they have been, what did they start the year? Because the Pacers, again, this was something I probably should have pulled up before, but I'll just do it in real time. So they started the season 10-15, okay? Since then, they finished the year with 50 wins. They're 8-2 in the postseason. So they are now 58-34. So after starting 10-15, they're 48-19. Is that right? Yeah, that is right. So let me figure out what that is over the totality of a season. 48 divided by 67. That's right. 48-19. Yeah. That's a 71 winning percentage over the course of 82 games. That's a 59 win pace. So they have been an excellent team, basically, for the totality of the season after the first 25 games. So not the totality of the season, but you guys understand what I mean. Since mid-December, they've been awesome. And since, they went into the new year 16-18, and so you guys, they have been, again, playing at almost a 60-win pace for quite some time. And obviously, they were awesome in round 1 and round 2 of the playoffs. They also have 7 guys they really trust, and an 8th they'll play in a pinch. They'll play more than in a pinch, but an 8th in Obi Toppin that they're fine with. But Halliburton, Siakam, Turner, that is, in today's NBA, more than competent top 3. When you have Nembhard, Nesmith, Mathurin, McConnell rounding out your real 7-man rotation, and Obi Toppin when you need him, that's plenty. So I think the Pacers obviously can win. I, however, do not think that they are better than the Knicks, and I will take the Knicks in this series. I will take the Knicks tonight, and I will take the Knicks in 6 games for the series. And I do think last year's series against the Pacers for the Knicks is instructive in that series went 7. Julius Randle, who obviously doesn't play for the team anymore, but he was out for the series, and they didn't have Karl Anthony Towns. In that game 7, OG Anunoby, was attempted to play, made 2 shots, then could do nothing. You can be like, well, but they don't have Hartenstein like they used to. That's true, but Hartenstein in that game 7 was a total non-factor. I think he had 0 points, and Mitchell Robinson was hurt. And obviously, Jalen Brunson got banged up in that series and in that Game 7. The Knicks were in a position in that Game 7 where Precious and Alec Burks combined for like 50-some minutes. Deuce McBride, if I remember correctly, led the team in minutes that game. So they are a very different team. They obviously didn't have Bridges, didn't have Towns. Randle was hurt. So it's not a wash like, well, they didn't have Towns, but they had Randle. No. And so I think last year's series, if anything, should give the Knicks a little more confidence. I also think that the Knicks' demolition of Boston, the way they did in that Game 6, should give them a little more confidence. And the other thing about that playoff series, or that Game 7 against the Pacers, was the Pacers, if you remember it, were just shooting lightning bolts out their ass the entirety of that game. I don't know if it was like the best percentage from the field of any team in a Game 7 ever. It was something insane. They scored 130. They shot like 65% from the field. And so now maybe that's too much time talking about Game 7, but we haven't seen Game 1 yet when we're recording this. I like the Knicks tonight. I like the Knicks in the series. And now I will say, fair is fair. A lot of the foul baiting stuff that I just ranted about with Shai, if Shai is the gold medalist of it this NBA season, obviously Brunson is the silver medalist, but Brunson has not been rewarded this postseason the way Shai has been. Brunson didn't have a single game against the against the Celtics where he got to 10 free throws. Shot 7-4-7, 9-9-4. And so, listen, Brunson will do more of the hardened stuff, try to hook your arm and do it. He'll do less of the, I just fell down. But that could be a very annoying and very difficult for the refs NBA Finals if that's what we get. And I think that's what we're going to get. I think it is going to be OKC versus the Knicks. And to kind of circle back to where we were on this, if this is how the rest of this series is going to be officiated in the Western Conference Finals, you are going to have the incredibly rare event of the casual, uninvested NBA fan or sports fan rooting for the team from New York over the team from Oklahoma City. Because that is not going to be something fans enjoy or want to see rewarded as the champion. Now listen, Oklahoma City is now 75-18 on the year. They have one of the best defenses in the league has seen in the last, maybe the best defense the league has seen in the last 20 years. They're incredibly deep. And at some point, the NBA is going to announce league MVP, and it's going to be Shai, and it should be Shai. I said throughout the year when this, once, not throughout the year, but in the final couple months, once there had been real evidence that Shai was the league MVP, and rightfully so. The Thunder are a great, great team. I hope for the rest of the conference finals, they're playing by the same rules as everybody else has been this postseason. All right, I'm headed to Indianapolis. I might try to do an emergency show or a reaction show from Indy. I got to figure out what the tech setup in the hotel I'm going to be in is. So like, rate, subscribe, review. That way you get these delivered right to you. But I'll be on TV later today, or maybe already was on TV, depending on when you're watching this. Then I'm heading to Indianapolis. First things first, going to be live from the Indy 500. Talk to you guys then. What's right?